Hello and welcome to the Mandalorians Explosion Network's Mandalorian Art Show, where we're breaking down, discussing, reviewing every episode of the Disney Plus original Star Wars series, The Mandalorian. Today, we're talking about Chapter 10, The Passenger. My name's Dylan Blind. Joining me, Ashley Holbay.
Hey Dylan, excited to be here, but I think we all agree Yeadle needs a helmet.
Yeadle needs a diet, is what I would say.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, that's something interesting. Yeah.
But he keeps being flung all over the place.
Yeah, well, I think he's surviving.
Terrible.
I mean, that's the least of my worries, honestly, at the end of this episode. Yeah, so today's episode, Chapter 10, is called The Passenger. It was directed by Peyton Reed. It was written by Jon Favreau. The Peyton Reed is... so we knew he was directing an episode this season, which is very cool. If you don't know, Peyton Reed is the director of the Ant-Man films for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So that makes this episode kind of funny when you realize... When it got to the point where there was giant bugs involved with the episode, I was like, wow, that's funny that it's the one that Peyton Reed's directing happens to involve a lot of bugs. I don't know if that was done on purpose. I'm going to have to assume so, because surely.
Sure.
The synopsis for the episode was just simply the Mandalorian must ferry a passenger with precious cargo on a risky journey. What was your overall thoughts on this episode, Ash?
It was fine. It was a good episode, but there was nothing really special about it, I don't think. Especially coming off, obviously, that first episode where it's very lore and background heavy. This one was a much more intimate, I guess, episode with not a lot happening in the grand scheme of things. And I think the F word that we used a lot last year will probably be used to describe this one on the internet.
Yes, I've already seen a lot of people calling it filler in my quick squiz around Twitter. I'm recording this pretty much after I finished recording, so I haven't had much time to delve into the Reddits, the Twitters, or whatever, but I have, in my quick 2-minute squiz, seen the F word filler thrown around. So I think this is a good episode. I loved the first half. The second half, not so much. So, like, I enjoyed pretty much up until, I guess, they crashed the most. I was like, I was really enjoying a lot of that. And not to say I hated the rest of it, but, like, I was like, okay, fine. It was an okay finish, but there was a lot of great moments up until then, I thought. I don't think I'm ready. Like, again, I think we discussed this last season. I don't particularly like filler just thrown around willy-nilly, especially when you haven't seen the entire season in its context, because obviously this episode ends with them floating towards the place where they're going to, like, drop off. So, like, the next episode's continuing in, and it's straight away this season, when compared to the first, where there was a lot of time gaps, maybe even a week, couple weeks in between, this season so far has been
well, this one picks up right after.
This picks up right up, and then we're going to have to presume that episode 3 also picks up right after, right? Given that they're just floating.
You would imagine so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if not straight after, then within, like, them just having landed kind of thing.
But to be fair, the first 3 episodes of last season, the first season, were very bunched
connected.
together.
Yeah, up until he returns to, what was that? What? Navarro? No. I can't even remember that. But yeah, something like that.
That sounds right.
Here's my number one problem with this episode. And it's to do with something we talked about last week, which is that I presume was going to see more of the person we're presuming is Boba Fett this episode, because I said there's no way they're going to leave Tatooine and have to come back. And now, since he's left and we've still been teased out the Boba Fett stuff, we're returning to Tatooine for a third fucking time this season, it seems. Because I find it very hard to believe that Boba Fett, I mean, maybe Boba Fett follows him or something like that. He could still have his ship, I guess. I don't know, but the way they present him in at the end of the last episode very much seemed like he was a kind of lone wanderer, maybe trapped on Tatooine, maybe not. I don't know. So
it's a full-on Thanos tease from the Avengers. You won't see him till like 6-7 movies down the line.
Please no. So I'm just gonna say, if we return to Tatooine,
and I knew straight away that we weren't going to see him because they did include his shot in the trailer.
Yeah, that was the That was my giveaway as
That
well.
was a dead
That
giveaway.
was a dead giveaway.
It's like, no.
The second they didn't include that one bit, I was like, oh, here we go. But the fact that, because the episode started, like, even though they didn't include him, and then the fact that he like, we'll get into breaking down the episode in a minute, but of course, at the start of the episode, he's thrown off his bike, and he's kind of stranded. And I was like, oh, so maybe this entire episode is going to be stranded on Tatooine, kind of a filler episode, but where he just like runs into some trouble or something like that. But then, of course, they skip ahead to the next scene. He's walking back into town, so that wasn't what ended up happening. There's some cool moments in this episode, cool cameos, some little details if you care about sort of like post episode 6, like lore, like what's the New Republic doing. Like, I enjoyed that little banter between the X-Wing pilots having to be like, well, you need this now. Like, in case you don't know, the New Republic's in charge now. Like, I thought that was kind of cool and stuff. But yeah, I'm not ready to call it filler until we see it within the full context. But let's get into breaking down the episode a little bit here. So, of course, the episode opens with the Mando racing along the sands of Tatooine on his speeder. I appreciate, again, they have a shot of little Yeetle hanging off the back like a puppy dog with his tongue in the wind kind of thing. Lots of great Yeetle shots this episode when compared to the first episode, which was kind of Yeetle light, I guess. You know, in retrospect, there really wasn't that much. He's tripped up by a bunch of, I'm going to assume, bounty hunters of some sort, or at least hired. They're at least after the child.
They're after the child.
Yeah, they're after the child. So the bounty or wannabe bounties of some sort, or you know what I mean. So something along those lines. Anyway, they're not savory folks. Let's put it that way. So they cause him to crash. I thought this whole sequence was great. Just the fact that the Mando, like, seeing Yeetle kind of skid across the sand, I was like, oof. But then the fact that Mando kind of lands on his feet, I thought that was kind of cool. And
using the jetpack.
Yeah, he uses his jetpack, and the fact you see like the bike.
He's been practicing.
Yeah, he can actually use it this season, which is good. I thought that was cool, and just seeing the bike flying off in the distance and all the parts everywhere. It was just, I like the way they shot it. And then he has that whole fight and sequence, and I really enjoyed the, I guess, the captive situation, even though I didn't particularly appreciate seeing someone hold a knife to little Yeetle. No. Didn't really appreciate that, but I did appreciate how Mando trades him the jetpack just to send him flying off into the fucking sky. That was great. I like that. I like how he just picks up Yeetle, picks him up in his arms, looks over, beep beep beep, shoots him off. That was great. Appreciate that. Pretty good. Some good comedy in that part. So then he walks back to Mos Eisley, I guess. I mean, like, checked.
You would assume he wasn't too far from town if they walked to wherever that point to catch him.
I'm going to have to assume it wasn't
which
far.
is super lucky that he just happened to come that rock formation.
I guess Well, I guess maybe they set up just outside of town because they knew he would be coming to town. Because that makes more sense than them having set up in the middle of nowhere. Like, the chances of them running to him in the middle of nowhere, where maybe that's just the part, like, that you go through those rocks, that's the direct route to town. So that's the way I make sense in my head. So he walks back into town. He goes and talks to Pelimoto, who is what's the actress's name? I forgot.
Amy Sedaris.
Amy Sedaris, yeah. Who everyone loves or don't like. Actually, I saw some people between last week's recording, this week's recording. Some people I saw online were like, "Don't like her." I'm like, I thought it was just a celebrated thing that everyone enjoyed her character, but nonetheless. So
no, they're just jealous. Jealous of how much time she gets with Yeetle.
Yeah, I mean, aren't we all? So Amanda walks in. She's like, oh, I see you found the Mandalorian and didn't have to kill him or whatever. So I thought that was funny how kind of blunt she is.
She just assumes.
Yeah. So she's playing Sabak, I guess, or some formation. That is what I took it as. And I think there is a name for the species, but I don't know it. But it's a giant fucking insect. Let's just call it what it is. she's playing against a giant insect. It's
not insects.
Yeah, it's not like a thing that doesn't. Yeah, it's again, Peyton Reed just is directing an episode that literally is just full of bugs. Like
it was almost like it was an Ant-Man.
Yeah, it was like the one that plays the drums. Yeah, from the Ant-Man movies. Yeah. So that thing, the fucking ant, whatever it is, I can't remember. But it's like, hey, if Mando spots me, I'll give it some information, which it agrees to, and it loses. But nonetheless, Mando does get a tip that someone does have information for where more Mandalorians are, and it gets very convoluted very quickly here. But long story short is Mando is to take a passenger to a planet, and they can't use hyperdrive because the passenger is a woman who's a giant frog lady. Well, not really a giant, but like a human-sized frog lady. Yeah. And she's carrying a
giant compared to actual
yes,
frogs. Yeah.
yes. And she's carrying a jar full of her eggs, and she wants to deliver them to her husband, who's gone to set up a new life for the family on a different planet, and they can't use hyperdrive because it would
on Trask,
right, to Trask, and they can't use hyperdrive because it would destroy the eggs or something along those lines. That was the whole reason. It got because I think they purposely write it so that Pelly says it obviously very fast and kind of confusing. But as an audience member, you're kind of supposed to be like, no worries, I've got this. Trask doesn't ring any bells in my head. Does it ring any bells if you Google it? Did you got the old Googly machine there? I saw you just pinging it on.
It says Trask was an estuary moon located in the same star system as the gas giant Kol Ilben. The Mandalorian bounty hunter Jinjarin took a job to transport.
So new planet.
Very quickly updated.
Yeah, new planet.
Yeah, new planet.
Yeah. Okay, so they get inside the ship, and they've been playing. Yeatl's been eyeing off the eggs. And I got to be honest. At first, I thought that it was him having some sort of Force-like connection with these unborn frog babies. Is what I thought it was.
It's like he's curious about this new life and that kind of stuff.
Yes, that's exactly how I was taking it. And they get in the ship. The Mando sets course, explains to the frog lady, hey, don't touch anything. I'm going to have a nap. Heads into the back, goes to find Yeatle. What's he doing? Dipping his fingers in the cookie jar. So, as they were saying, the cookie jar in this case happens to be someone's poor fucking unborn eggs.
Yeah.
I mean,
so interesting choice to turn Yeatle heel in this episode in which he eats the last of a dying race.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it? Like, am I wrong for saying I didn't find it cute to have Yeatle eating unborn eggs, or is that supposed to be the way we're all supposed to feel?
Yeah, it's a bit. It was a bit weird. One, that it was eating them. Two, she never noticed.
Yeah,
or never did anything. I guess we'll find out how the pro-life movement feels about this episode.
I mean, I have some more.
Does life begin at insemination? Is what we're saying.
I have some more thoughts, but I'll save it right until the end of the episode because there was another moment where I thought something was happening with Yeatle, but then it wasn't at all. So, nonetheless.
But we should have known. I mean, he's got a taste for frogs.
That's true. So. That is actually a good point. I didn't connect that, but yes, you're right. The first thing we see him eat, episode, what was it, 2, 3, whatever it was?
3.
Yeah, 3. Yeah. Eating the frog on that planet where they, okay. So they have a nap. They get awoken by alarms or something like that's going on. So Mando runs up into the cockpit of the Razor Crest, and he's got 2 X-Wings beside him. One is played by Sun-Hyung Lee from I fucking googled it a second ago. What's that show? The main one he's in? Because I did quickly Google it before because I was like, I've seen this dude somewhere. He is in a show that is popular, or somewhat popular at the moment.
Kim's Convenience.
That's it, Kim's Convenience. Fuck, shouldn't have been easy to remember, but nonetheless. So yeah, from Kim's Convenience. And the other person is played by Dave Filoni, which I did pop for. And I will happily pop for Dave Filoni as a little fanboy any and all times I see Dave Filoni in any Star Wars related material. He is the father of my favorite Star Wars character, so praise be.
What's his character's name again?
Hey, I don't know. Did they have it in the credits? Because
yeah, they had it in the credits.
It has to be the same character from last season.
Paul Sun-Hyung Lee's character was Captain Carson Teva.
Yep.
He was Trapper something.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is the same character, would be the same character from last season. In case you don't remember, Dave Filoni played one of the 3 pilots in the what episode was it? 5 or 6? The prison one. I think it was 5.
6.
Something like that. Yeah, the one where they because that's a
Trapper Wolf. He plays Trapper Wolf.
Yeah, of course it's Wolf. Filoni loves wolves. Because in case you can't remember, which that episode's important for this episode, of course, and they showed you if you watched the previously on, they had a lot of the prison breakout episode stuff here to remind you, because it is important for this episode, because not only because Dave Filoni wasn't in that episode as one of the X-Wing pilots, but it's important for what the X-Wing pilots say right here and now. So at first they're like, hey, I love the way this scene is filmed, just with them like asking the questions and just the way Mando's just kind of like, I think this is one of these times where the delivery from Pedro Pascal, you don't actually need to see his face, because you can kind of see him. You could nearly just picture the way his face is kind of pulling faces of like trying to be careful but not careful, like holding. Yeah, I don't know, like I could just see it in my mind's eye, and I thought that was cool. And just so they're like, hey, do you have this New Republic clearance? And he like takes a couple seconds. No, I'll get that fixed up right away, which I thought was a cool little tidbit to, again, because this is after episode 6 and, you know, New Republic's just taking over and then being like, hey, we've got these new rules. It's like moving into a new state and someone takes over and you're like, oh, I didn't know I had to have these certain registrations or something like that for my car here. So I thought that was cool. And then they're like, oh, you need to send us your signal. And I like the way at first he's like, oh, it doesn't appear to be working, or oh, we're going for a wind tunnel. My dog ate my homework, like trying all the excuses. And then eventually, of course, he sends it over because they were going to have to make him return to a certain planet or their base or something along those lines. And when he sends them the Razor Crest signal, of course, it comes up on their system that he was the ship spotted outside the New Republic prison transport from last season, where they helped break out a prisoner, of course. So then they put their twin foils into attack position. So Mando's like, yep, fuck this shit, I'm out of here. Dives down, and they end up having this whole chase sequence. And this chase sequence was cool. It was filmed really well. I appreciated the fact that it wasn't just like the New Republic X-Wings weren't straight like into firing. They were doing a lot of like, don't make us fire on you. You know, like it was just kind of like cops trying to be good and just being like, dude, like fucking pull over.
Cops should be, yeah.
Like just do the right thing here. Yeah, so I thought that was cool.
Please.
Yeah, please do the right thing. He ends up Mando does some pretty cool maneuvers, and I think to a degree it would have worked out really well for him, that whole skid landing on the ice, except for the fact that the ice then breaks away.
The ice was very thin, yeah.
Yeah, he ends up going down into like a cave area or what have you. So other than that, it was some solid flying, I think, from
solid work,
involved.
yeah.
Also, shout out to Frog Lady, who was absolutely losing her fucking mind during this whole sequence. Appreciated that.
I enjoyed both of them during the final drop.
Yeah.
Obviously, they weren't built to do.
That was great. Now that I'm actually thinking about it, you know, the frog things kind of remind me of the caretakers from Last Jedi.
Yeah, that does a little bit.
Similar sort of look and delivery of
Not
stuff.
quite the same.
No.
Definitely not the same species.
No, definitely not. But the only thing I can relate to from Star Wars, I guess, is nothing else like Frog Lady. Which I hope we have a proper species name or something sometime soon, because, yeah. But anyway, they'll just forever be known as Frog Lady. So they crash down this cave below. and the place is absolutely freezing. Frog Lady's freezing. Mando's all right because Beskar, I guess. Mandalorian armor keeps you warm. New fact, I didn't know that, but there you go. Yeetle apparently is also immune to the cold, I guess, is a maybe interesting tidbit from this episode. He definitely doesn't seem bothered by any planet's heat, cold. Like he seems just good for whatever, you know. And also he's quite happy to eat whatever as we fucking any conditions and any food. He says
any chance again, straight into the jar.
Yeah.
Last of that species.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's why we've never seen the species before, because maybe it'll kill them all off.
Yoda's species has been eating these things for centuries. Whatever Yoda's. You know, there's the other funny thing about this episode that I just, as I'm saying it out loud, I'm figuring it out. But I'm like, so we don't know Frog Lady's species. We don't know Yoda's, the Yeetle species.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of...
Maybe they're sworn enemies.
Yeah, mate.
That's why they keep exchanging looks.
Maybe we don't know anything about any of them. Yeah, so officially canon. They're sworn enemies.
There we go.
There we go. Lock that in. So yeah, it's freezing. Mando gets to work trying to fix the ship after trying to save the babies or stop Yeetle from eating them, and then kind of gives up for a little bit. He's sitting down. He's like, oh fuck, gonna have a rest now. I think he like has a nap, right? He kind of naps, or he's kind of out of it, or taking a little nap on the floor there, isn't he? And then he's awoken by the Frog Lady doing the voice, right?
No, so they all have like a meal together. It's like a full-on like sushi thing platter. The thing they're all eating before.
I thought he had a nap.
He goes to sleep. Yeah, he snuggles up against the Mandalorian as he falls asleep. Yeah.
So then he's awoken to the sound of Richard Ayoade, or the robot that he voiced from last season, which I completely forgot that until they did the previously on thing that was even on board the ship still, and why it was still on board the ship. But there you go. I love how they get him back to do this cameo voice role, even though it's technically him not even playing the character, because it's just the Frog Lady doing the voice box of the robot to communicate. But nonetheless, so Frog Lady has taken over the robot to communicate to Mando, and she more or less pleads a case of, my husband or whatever set out to build a new life for us. We're blast of our species, going to go set up there. I need to get there. You promised me. Mando's like, look, Frog Lady, we're fucking... we're crashed. We're in a fucking cave. What do you want me to do here? And then she pulls one out on him. She knew what to say to get under his helmet, if you will, which was, I thought, Mandalorians live up to their word or whatever. She's like, oh, is that something I just heard that's just a tale? You can inside the helmet, I can just see like the eyes roll, like the creed. How dare it make me have to follow through on this thing? But nonetheless, he gets out. He's like, yeah, okay, I'll get back to work. So he heads back to work, and then at some stage, he's asking Yeetle to help. Not doing much. Yeetle's a pest this entire episode. Absolutely, just a menace. Not helping when he could be helping. Just force levitate that ship up a little bit. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, could do some handiwork, but nonetheless.
Nah.
Absolutely useless. And then...
Works for adults.
Yeah. Only. So then they realize that the Frog Lady, the passenger, has disappeared. So Mando uses his heat vision to track her footprints, and they head inside this cave, and inside the very depths of this cave, which, hands up, I was wrong. Definitely not a fucking Kyber crystal cave as I thought it was going to be when we was talking about the trailer. There you go. Dun-dun.
Yeah.
So inside, she's found I wrote down hot spring, because that's, I guess, what it was, right?
It's kind of what it is, yeah.
She's just bathing in it, and she says it's warm, or like as long as it's warm, and she's got all the eggs out bathing in it as well. So yeah, it's just like some sort of hot.
Because she was complaining before that
too cold.
Babies were getting too cold.
So
makes sense.
And the Mando's like, no, you can't be doing this because I can't have my eye on you and you could get hurt. And so he starts gathering up all the eggs, and Yeatl's eyeing them off like a fucking bob and apple ready to go for it. And Mando stops him. So then Yeatl's like, all right, I'll go have a look.
I mean, does he though?
Well, kind of. Well, I guess not.
That's the question I raised.
He pockets one for later, I guess, is what what he does.
What actually happens?
Sneakily pockets one somehow in front of both of them. He's a fucking
force powers.
Yeah.
That's when he used the force powers.
The only time just to steal things. Jesus, with
that, or he pocketed a bunch before.
With great responsibility.
He's got. You don't know what's in those robes.
Sure. Don't know how many pockets he has. Don't know what's going on there. But he heads on over and he finds a bunch of eggs. He's like, yeah, it must be food. Now, this whole sequence, very much obviously inspired by Alien. You haven't seen Alien, but surely, like you can.
I've seen Alien, not Aliens.
Okay, so surely
not the one with the S.
Yes. Okay, so but surely you're watching this.
But I know the reference.
Yeah, like it very much looks like Alien, the room where they find a bunch of eggs laid out and they'll just spread out, and even the way they hatch open looks very much inspired by the Alien franchise. Nonetheless, Yeatle eats one, and it doesn't devour into his face and bury an egg inside Yeatle. Thank God for that.
I tell you what, watching him eat that is a joy to watch. He was having a good time eating that unborn spider thing.
Yep. Disgusting. It was going everywhere. It was quite
it was all over his face. His hands were all leaked, sticky and everything.
Juicy and disgusting.
It's great.
Bad idea. Nonetheless. So he upsets everyone. I took it. He upset the nature of the whole situation.
Must be like some sort of
high flying type thing. He completely sets it off balance because all the eggs start hatching open. He starts backing away, basically calling for help. And then a bunch of teen spiders come out, and then of course a mama spider. Again, all of this just makes me think of Predator. It's like the xenomorph mama and all this sort of stuff. But so the spider things, I lost my train of thought there. EW is the website I'm trying to say. EW had an article up about these things that says those terrifying the Mandalorian creatures have an Empire Strikes Back origin. So they wrote that they are in the episode, the spider design matches a decade-old concept drawing by famed Star Wars artist Ralph McQuarrie for, quote, knobby white spiders that could have been on Yoda's planet Dagobah in 1980s, The Empire Strikes Back. Now, if you're watching the video version, of course, I've got the picture up of what this is, and they very do much look like disgusting spider things. Like in the Ralph McQuarrie art, there's hundreds of these eggs around Luke, around the forest of Dagobah. You got this giant mama spider thing that looks like it's spitting one out of its mouth or something. It's absolutely
I think it's laying it.
Yeah, okay. It's disgusting. If you have a what's the proper word for fear of spider? What's that, like arachnophobia, right? Yeah,
arachnophobia.
Yeah, so you have a bit of arachnophobia. This is not for you, and this episode's not for you. There's
really kind of should have been a warning at the start.
Should have been trigger warning at the start. Macquarie's design later evolved into a spider called the Kringknan. What am I going with here? Do you reckon that's right? Krykna? Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was reading it wrong. Yeah. There's K there. Krykna. A form of large predator spider that has appeared in several episodes of the animated series Star Wars Rebels. And I completely forgot about this, but yes, there are spiders on a planet in Star Wars Rebels. They set up base on this planet, and they think everything's fine. They think it's this perfectly safe planet, and then these spider things come out, and they fight a bunch of them, but then also Kanan and Ezra end up communing with them, using the Force to kind of commune with them. But those spiders definitely look like they were inspired by the Ralph McQuarrie art, and they do look similar. You can see the inspiration between all of these spiders for this episode. So cool. And it's always not funny. It's always interesting, I guess, to see whenever they return to the well of Ralph McQuarrie for anything Star Wars related, because there's so much untapped and unused potential that a lot of Star Wars stuff is constantly tapping into it, especially the animated show. So they race back to the ship. Race as much as they can while shooting at the thousands of these fucking spiders chasing them. And they get into the ship and they kind of have to fight them off. My one problem with this scene is I don't know why the Mando takes so long to be like, oh, fuck yeah, I've got a flamethrower away. You know what I mean? Like, he's shooting them, trying to get the door closed, and it's only after that Yeetal's nearly attacked by one of them, he's like, oh, fuck yeah. Flamethrower, right, should probably use that. Could have used that a minute ago, dude. Like, bit slow on upkeep here. What was it, recharging? Jesus.
Tell you what, I was very lucky that the frog lady saved Yeetal. You know, he was having real trouble with that one.
Didn't even know she had a gun.
Also, really cool seeing. One didn't know she had a gun. Interesting to see her move through that chase sequence, pretty much being like a frog instead of like running on hind legs, like full on jumping ahead and that kind of stuff.
So it's not like she just,
you know, and they had like a look, you know, like a look of mutual respect.
I thought so too.
You know.
I thought so too. It's fine.
Thought Yeetal had learnt his lesson.
I still don't know if she knows. That's the biggest question I have going into next week's episode. I still don't know if she knows or she's just not getting angry. Either way, so Mando's like, no worries, time to get out of here. I think I fixed the ship enough to get out of here. Fires up. They're about to take off. Not going to happen. Big spider gets over the top of the ship. Looks like it's going to kill them, like rip the ship off and eat them up for yummies. The part where the spider head comes over the windshield of the Razor Crest and it like opens up its many mouths or whatever, that part was fucking disgusting. Absolutely hated that. That was yuck.
It definitely reminded me of something. I can't remember what. Might have even Stranger Things, possibly.
Yeah, like, I don't know. There's many things, like...
I've definitely seen many things which some massive monster starts licking the windshield.
Yeah. I mean, even the last time we saw something like this in Star Wars, I guess, was Force Awakens, but even that thing wasn't as disgusting as... What the fuck are they called? I can't even remember what they're called. Don't remember. Doesn't matter. We're seeing that movie. But you know what I mean? That thing wasn't as disgusting as the spider, is what I'm going to say. No?
Yeah.
That thing didn't have a million teeth. Like, spiders... I don't like spiders, so... Like, I don't have arachnophobia, but at the same time, I'm not a big fan of...
Prefer not to.
I'm not friends with the spiders either. You know what I'm saying? So, all seems worse. Then a bunch of shots get fired off from the side. Turns out that the two X-Wing pilots have returned to save the day. Yes, it's Dave Filoni back to save the day, and Sun-Hyung Lee, because I can't remember their character's names. Something Wolf and Captain something or other. There you go. So they save the day. Amanda goes out and talks to him. They're pretty much like, hey, we looked up the ship. You did help someone escape, but then you also, later in the day, helped Captain something or other. What was it? Oh, fuck. No. He helped the captain. He helped them blow up that whole space station. Like, he pinged the single or whatever it was and stuff. Like, they list off a couple things he did.
Yeah.
More or less say, hey, you did one bad thing, but on our records, it also seems you've done 3 good things. We'll balance it out.
Got a bunch of bounties on board or something.
Yeah. And he's like, well, how about I give you some bounties, you help me fix up the ship, we call it a day. And they say, how about you get that new Republic tracker installed, and yeah, we'll call that a day. And they don't help him with his ship and they leave.
Yeah. You get that tracker and then we won't blow you up next time. Yeah. Pretty much.
So they kind of meet in the middle, I guess. To a degree. Kinda, I guess. Nonetheless, they fix up the ship, and they fix up the ship as much as he can. He makes sure everyone goes to Lou first, which I appreciate that little detail, because then they all get into the front of the Razor Crest, and it basically sounds like he says he's sealed off like that door to the cockpit. Yeah. Like, he sealed off that door because the back of the ship is just complete. Yeah,
he can't lock
the hangar, so that part's all fucked up. And then they head out to space again. He's like, it's going to be a long trip. Let's have a nap. Let's settle down. Now, at this point, Yeetal turns around and has a look at the jar and also Frog Lady. And then he turns around and he's like looking around. And I thought he was this is where I thought he was giving a look of like, oh, I did bad. I've learned a lesson this episode, which is that I probably shouldn't eat random baby things or things that look like eggs because that may or may not cause trouble. And I was like, okay, so this episode's about Yeatle learning life lessons. But then he pulls out a fucking egg and eats it. He learned nothing.
What?
He's learned absolutely nothing this episode.
No.
Like, it's horrible. I don't know. He's so cute. It's hard to hate him, but
maybe they just taste really good.
The fact that he stole
You
one
can't help yourself.
and hid it, and then turned around, looked at the jar, looked at the frog lady,
looked at the lady straight in her eyes,
who then
saved his life.
Yeah,
mere hours earlier,
and then turns around and goes, "Yeah, but tastes good." What an animal! What a fucking savage! Yeatle is untrustworthy is at the minimum is what I'd say, and also a fucking cannibal. I mean,
no, not cannibal.
Well, what if the frog lady is part of his species? What if it's like what if she's part? No, that's a weird road to go down. Yeah, no, that's
what we show up. We show up the next episode. The dad's Yoda or something.
Imagine going there. Imagine that being the thing.
I'd be like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean that's basically the episode. The episode ends with that shot we saw from the trailer of the Razor Crest floating towards a planet. What's the planet called? Whatever we said before.
No, it was like leaving the planet.
Was it? Oh, I thought it was floating towards the episode. Anyway, so yeah, that shot of the ship all being fucked up. So that's where that's from. We've seen nearly a lot of the shots from trailers so far. I feel like we've seen like half, if not. We've seen at least half the trailer, which is, I guess, something to point out. Like the few things off the top of my head that obviously we haven't seen. We haven't seen Sasha Banks, and that's that episode, which seems to be the one where he ends up on a boat, and that's one episode with Sasha Banks, which could be next episode. And we haven't seen
anything with Cara Dune and.
They're one shot in the trailer, and then we haven't seen anything that where they show the troopers chasing Mando on the bikes and that sort of stuff. But half the trailer we've already seen already, because a lot of it actually turned out to be from last week's episode and stuff. So that's cool. It's good to know there's lots of secrets and things to come. Any final thoughts? Any ideas? It's the Mandalorians.
No, I know. Maybe they don't make it to the planet. I mean,
maybe.
Yeatle just keeps eating.
All I'm gonna say is I'm gonna put it out there. As much as everyone's gonna go like filler episode, I'm gonna hope that there's more to Frog Lady, more lesson to be learned here for Yeatle. I'm just gonna say that I think and hope that there's more to this than meets the eye.
Well, I imagine next episode they arrive at the planet. Yes. That leads them to the Mandalorian.
Yeah,
so it's a necessary step.
Because there's a lot of questions like, why does she know where Mandalorians are if she's not lying? Which I don't think she is. Like she's
no. Well, her husband's on the planet, as he said. There's Mandalorians there.
Yeah. So, but why would they be talking to? Yeah, I know. There's questions there. We'll find out next week, I guess. But and then again, like if we go back to Tatooine, I'll be angry. I'm gonna be angry. I'm gonna be annoyed. I'm putting that out there right now. When and if we return,
there's only one person you trust to fix this shit.
Just stop. Like that's Jon Favreau having his nostalgia blinders on, just wanting to go back to Tatooine a lot. That's what it is.
I know Tatooine is a hub for the New Republic in the future.
There's an interesting point of discussion that could be brought up as like, why is Tatooine always this sort of place that everyone is dragged to throughout the history of franchise? Like all the characters seem to go there at one point or another. There's an interesting point to have there, but
maybe they'll explain why Rey shows up at the end.
Yeah, imagine if only. No, that's what they're explaining in the Lego Star Wars holiday special.
Yeah, that's true. Looking forward to that. We're gonna do a special.
I don't want to spoil, but No, I won't say. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of The Mandalorians. You can find the show on explosionnetwork.com, youtube.com/Explosion Network, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anything, just search for Explosion Network or the MandaLOREians. Follow us on Twitter by heading to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. You can follow all of our Twitters there. And until next Friday, where we'll be back, Saturday, I guess these posts really, but next Friday when we're all watching the episode. Until then, we have spoken.